Hello and welcome to our channel, the Alabama Renaissance Fair. Today we have wonderful guests, our Majesties, the King and the Queen. I am rising, your Majesties, the King and the Queen. During Renaissance time we all rise, so will you please arise with me? This is our Majesties, and would you please say your name so we can get the correct pronunciation of each of your names?
I am Garrick, House of Dean.
I'm Queen Mab.
Thank you for joining us today. Would you please tell us about your life? And let's have a seat, please.
Thank you.
His Majesty.
Thank you, Madam. Well, our life has been quite a hard one. Before we come home to Firenze, my Queen and I, we spent many a year in Samarkand, where I was master blacksmith and siege engineer to my Lord and Master Tamerlane. On his death, I did not agree with his son took over his empire, so I decided to sell all my fortune, mass the army, and we decided to come home to Firenze.
Thank you.
Well, I am the daughter of traveling artisans. My father was a stonemason. He repaired castles, estates. My mother was a weaver and tapestry worker. We had a small estate, but we preferred to travel. It was a lot more interesting. My father realized I could pick up languages rather quickly, so he used me as his translator. So if I stub my toe, it's not usually English that comes out of my mouth. My parents unfortunately succumbed to the plague when we were in Constantinople. I traveled with Queen Whippoorwill's traveling band of performers and was performing on a street corner singing when this handsome fuzzy gentleman caught my eye. We've been together ever since. We have two beautiful children and up until recently have continued our lifestyle of traveling.
Are they staying in the castle right now?
Yes.
Yes, right now they are with their private tutors.
Oh, very nice.
I believe that education is just as important for a young master and a young mistress.
I agree, very much so. And what else would you like to tell us about your past?
Well, thank you for asking. Originally, my family was one of the previous monarchs of Firenze. You know, a merchant king, as all monarchs of Firenze are, being a merchant city. On the death of my dear father, the remaining royals of Firenze kidnapped me and sold me into slavery. And they sold me to the east, where I was used as a pack mule and beast of burden until I was later sold to a blacksmith, where I apprenticed and worked my way up till I was sold to the court of Tamerlane. Once there, as I said, working for my master Tamerlane, I built weapons and siege engines for his empire. And as I previously said, on the this part's hard. On the occurrence of his death, I had to deal with his sons, who took upon his empire. I did not agree hardly at all with his sons. So my wife and my children and I, we sold every holdings we had and decided to come home. Upon our travels, all across the east, we finally came home to Firenze. Now, by this time, I had amassed quite a following of mercenaries and just accoutrements, and at the time, Firenze was having their autumn feast. We attended, and at the end of the autumn feast, they have the choosing. Upon this choosing, they give out a confectionery. Madam, what was it? Was it a pastry?
It's a small galette.
Excuse me, I wasn't quite familiar with the term. A cookie. And upon receiving that cookie, I luck would have it, and by the fates, I won the coin, which allowed me to luckily reclaim my family holding.
Very familiar with that, how you get that. Years ago, I myself was with a wonderful queen, and she picked the cookie herself. So therefore, I'm always will be called Duke Christopher of Crossland. So in the future, you too will be Duke and Duchess forever. It's a wonderful title to have. Ma'am, what about you? Would you please tell me your past story, and how did you get to this point?
Well, as I've said before, I was the daughter of traveling artisans. We traveled all over Europe and Asia, just about any estate that could afford to pay my parents to work. We worked. I inherited my father's tools and my mother's craft for fabrics when they passed. I was basically left with nothing other than whatever was contained in our family wagon. So I did travel with a bunch of migrant performers when they found I had a talent for singing. And it was during a feast day in Constantinople in the Christian quarter, and this young man happened to be buying materials for his master.
How many languages do you speak?
Fluently, or at least proficiently, French. A smattering of German. I can understand some Italian, some Spanish, and some words that should not be repeated in polite company in Turkish.
Okay.
And when I start to rumble and mungle.
That's usually when he stubs his toe or he loses his favorite hammer.
Was wondering that because both of you had said your children are being educated.
Yes.
So therefore, how did this wonderful idea come about? Because some do not wish to do that, but you see the value and the wonderness of education for the prince and princesses.
Yes.
So I would like to understand that more. How did you come upon this?
Well, my parents have always encouraged me to learn. My father, languages, my mother, arts. They never limited our creativity, and I want our children to have the same opportunities. My daughter has started to excel herself in maths.
Ooh, very impressive.
Our son in engineering, but also
Yes.
reading.
He's quite the engineer. He's helped me quite a few times in the King's forges.
And teaching him how to build miniature siege engines.
We haven't destroyed anything large yet.
Well, yes, but we only have a tabletop trebuchet.
Well, you could, get rid of the flies to start with and just let's work up.
Well, actually, it's big enough to kill mice, but
All right.
they don't hold still long enough.
He's wanting a ballista.
Really? Okay.
I would like to ask you, what are your duties as king and queen?
Mostly it's public appearances. Right after the our coronation of the fair, we walk in the old time parade, the Christmas parade, and then we have we make appearances like at Smoke on the Water that they're having this Saturday, and just use little events like First Fridays that they have with all the merchants in downtown in Firenze, and
We were invited to another kingdom in Greenville, Alabama as visiting royalty. And we got to parade with the king and queen. Our son was chosen as one of the queen's pages for the day. He helped carry her banner. And we were hosted for a queen's luncheon, which was wonderful.
yes, we were treated very well by the Greenville Fair. It was very nice.
They are very wonderful people. We ourselves have done the exact same thing, and we love that kingdom. They are so wonderful.
Yes.
What about the feast? Would you explain to our audience what the feast is, how it takes place, what happens in detail, please?
Well, the feast is the second Saturday in October. It's a week before the fair. It is $25 a ticket. You have a 4 or 5 course dinner arranged around the theme of whichever the monarch has chosen. In past it has been from Italy, Scotland, France, Germany. Nordic, yes, we have had Vikings. There is also entertainment interspersed in between each course. And at the end is the most important part for most people, which is called the choosing, in which whomever wants to be chosen as the next king or queen of the fair will stand in a line, be counted, and you are handed a small sandwich cookie. Once you break open the cookie, whoever has the coin will be the king or queen of the next year's fair.
How will the fair go? Now that's a week later.
Yes.
So what will be your duties during the fair, and then what will be going on during the fair?
There will be artisans, there will be different schools have performances, historical demonstrations, archery. There's going to be a presentation on beekeeping this year.
Kazaki will have their reenactments.
Yes, very good sword fighting team. What else?
Do you know
Activities for the children.
I'm sorry, Your Majesty. Do you know if the Kazakis will be baking the breads and the foods there this year?
They, as far as I'm aware, they will have their ovens. I have not talked to Duke Mitchell about whether or not they're going to be baking their breads. I will see him at the board meeting today, but as far as I'm aware, since it's cold weather, I'm sure they will have their coal-fired ovens, because most of them act as also security the night before the fair, and they will camp there to make sure no one messes with the vendors' tents.
I'm hoping to interview them about the cooking and the baking, because I love that food. So we got to figure out how they do it, and so if you've got any word, you can tell them, and like, we
put a word
really
in.
want to talk to them. They are wonderful people.
Oh, the wise woman is one of the wise women is a personal friend of ours. In fact, we are meeting her for luncheon shortly.
Yes.
So we will be able to bend her ear on certain matters.
Is this the storyteller?
Yes.
I will have her on here. We have several segments that we have planned with a wonderful lady, and I'm looking
She
forward
is
to the good
you
stories.
might say, an adopted aunt.
Very wise choice. Very wise. Your Majesties, for this year, what is our theme going to be? What has been chosen?
The proposed theme, in the past, most monarchs have chosen a certain time and place in Europe, either Venice, 1500s, or France in the 1600s, within the Renaissance fair, the Renaissance time period. We decided to go a different route, so to speak. The theme this year is actually the Silk Road. The Silk Road was a major trade route that opened up actually officially during the Han Dynasty in China in about 130 BC, and lasted until the rise of the Ottoman Empire in 1453 AD. It actually predates 130 BC, as parts of the road belonged to the main trade routes of the Persian Empire, later taken over by the Greeks and the Romans. Famous explorers like Marco Polo traveled the Silk Road from Italy to China and other parts of the Middle East. As a result of these trade routes being stabilized, not only were trade goods like spices, horses, even slaves,
Gunpowder.
Gunpowder traveled both from east and west. The reason it was called the Silk Road is because that initially was the main export from China to the West, especially during the Byzantine Empire. It was that meeting of cultures along this trade route and sharing of ideas that started the spark of the Renaissance. So I would like to show how the early flowerings along the Silk Road have given birth to the rise of art and culture in Europe.
What time was Lord Timur's death?
05.
1405.
So the time period of our autumn festival will be in and around 1405 to 1410, since the Ottomans took over in 1453 and closed the Silk Road officially.
So it'll be the right at the birth of the Renaissance.
Yes,
the early,
the very early Renaissance.
Okay.
because it was just starting to flourish.
Will we have food from
Yes.
the Silk Road at our feast?
Yes.
Yes.
We
Oh,
are.
I'm so excited
We
about
have
this.
not officially talked to Chef yet. He has been unavailable at this time. But we are suggesting that each course reflect a certain stop on the Silk Road. So technically, you could have your appetizer in Europe and your dessert from Asia. Or if you would like to travel from east to west, we could reverse it.
Very tasty idea for me. I love it. This sounds really good, guys. During my time, we had a curse. And I'm wondering, is the curse still, has it been fixed? Is it still there?
Well,
what are your thoughts on this?
Well, our thoughts of it, since we have been displaced from home, we have heard many tales of the curse. But I have put steps in place to hopefully, I wouldn't say do away with it, but hopefully mitigate the effects of the curse. You know, from what I've been told from all the past monarchs, no one has been safe from it. So we will, as they say in the taverns, we will roll with the dice.
I tried, and I just had to leave.
Firenze is a interesting merchant city, and upheaval is quite common. Some of the previous monarchs have been deposed. Others have caught in various diseases, plague especially. But we have some of our wisest people working on the situation.
We've lost many of friends to the plague.
Yes.
Our last monarch, that's what he had to resign from his crown, was the plague.
That's always very rough to hear this.
From what I heard, he was traveling to Lourdes,
Well,
hopefully to get some healing.
In the year during your monarch, what have you done for Firenze?
well, thank you for asking, Duke Crosland. My wife and I are very fond of the arts. As you know, I'm a blacksmith by trade. We have took some of the funds to improve the infrastructure of Firenze. We have built new shops for we have a lot of displaced artisans in Firenze.
Yes.
So we have built shops and smithies for these wonderful artisans to work, and they, in turn, they have made things to increase the commerce of Firenze. They have made tapestries, they have made glass blowing, they have made silver, gold, you name it. Just we have been trying to, as I said, give the artisans tools to work with, so to speak.
I agree with that. I really like to hear that. Thank you for that, because I didn't know how all that happened. And will you continue this?
Yes, we are going. We also have things in place that I'll bring forth at the feast and possibly the fair, of ways to help with the displaced, the homeless that we have in Firenze, to start apprenticeship programs with the glass blowers and the seamstresses and the tapestry weavers, just to get Firenze working.
That sounds incredible. I loved. Now, for the glass blowing, do you have the full setup, or is it very small?
Well,
Or
we're
is it-
starting out very small, but we have contact with Venice and other surrounding places that have guild members with the large setups. Right now, they're just making the vases and figurines and things that, but the sand here at the river of Firenze just makes beautiful glass.
Yes, it does.
And we're trying our best to find shipping it to my contacts back in the east.
Okay. Thank you so much for helping us out, because we need this. This is a wonderful place to be.
Yes.
Thank you so much, Your Majesty. I do hope the curse does not fall upon you, Majesties. I wish you would stay and take care of us. We really need you.
Our thanks, Duke Crosland.
Thank you so much. I would like to thank you guys for showing up and gracing us with your presence and explaining how this works and telling us about your history. Thank you very much for joining us today.
For having us.
Thank you.
And please click subscribe and hit the bell button, and that way we will see you next time, because we have many more adventures planned with you. Have any questions or comments or even suggestions? I would love to hear it, and I'm sure the Your Majesties would love to hear it too. Thank you very much for joining us, and please come back next time. Thank you.